Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's training session. Today, we're going to be looking at an overview to Microsoft Copilot, specifically in EDU environments. Thank you all so much for joining. There is a quick poll that has been sent through in the chat. If you could take a moment to put your responses through, asking about your familiarity with Copilot Chat today. Let's go ahead and get started. So, go back one. I would like to begin by introducing myself. My name is Devin Bridges from Planet Technologies, where I work on the Evolve 365 team as a learning strategist. I've had the amazing opportunity to work with a number of different organizations as Copilot has come available, and I'm excited for the opportunities that it will provide for all of you. We also have a great group of people here from Planet as well to help answer your questions in the chat, so please feel free to ask as questions arise. Here's what we will be covering during our session today. We are going to start off with first focusing on a quick overview of what Copilot is and make sure that we're all on the same page with our expectations of AI and Copilot's capabilities. Then we're going to talk about the access of Copilot and explore the interface and navigation features that are available. We will have some live demonstrations with prompting and different use cases, and then we will wrap up with some additional tips and tricks that you can try. All right, that said, we'll go ahead and jump on in with an overview to Copilot. So I want to start by talking about what we are trying to achieve with these new AI capabilities. AI, or artificial intelligence, is very much a buzzword right now. And the generative tools that are coming onto the market are incredibly popular. They allow us to do things like summarize lengthy documents, create new and professional content for our teams or for our customers, and support us across almost every step of our existing workflows. Now, these tools can provide assistance, insights, and help with rephrasing and recreating content. I do want to emphasize how important it is that we use approved AI services. And because of how these tools are developed, there's a real risk of unintentionally exposing personal or confidential data if we don't. Now, the good news is that Copilot, when you are signed in with your work credentials, helps ensure data integrity and applies the same enterprise-grade data protection that you're already used to across your other Microsoft applications. Now, generally speaking, any generative AI tools has two main characteristics that I want to call out. The first is hallucinations. This is the term used when AI produces responses that sound very convincing but are incorrect or inaccurate. Because AI is a generative tool, it's based on patterns and what it has learned from the data that it was trained on. Sometimes it pulls together what it thinks you want, but it may not fully align with the level of accuracy that you expect. So that's why we are still a critical part of the process. You are the expert in your field. You understand the scope and the subject matter, so it's always important to double check and validate what is being created. The other element to be aware of is change. Now, you've probably noticed this already, but AI, more than any of our other software or tools, is evolving very quickly. It's consistently improving, and today's experience will be the least advanced version that you'll ever use. Because of that, we need to maintain a growth mindset and be willing to adapt as new features roll out and changes are introduced. We're going to see this constantly, so be patient with yourself and be patient with the technology that you see as well. It's completely normal for parts of this journey to feel a little stressful at times. What I also hope that you take away from those changes is that Microsoft and the developers behind the scenes take your feedback seriously and are constantly advancing the tools to better meet your needs. When we talk about our data, I know that for many of you, this is a significant area of concern. I want to emphasize that when you're signed in with your organization credentials, you automatically receive enterprise data protection. There are a few key indicators that help us recognize that this protection is active during our conversations, and we'll look at that during our demonstrations today. What this means is that once you're signed in, your data is encrypted and not accessible to anyone else. Some conversations may be saved in a personal history so you can reference work that you've already done, but that access is personal and exclusive to you. Your data is not being used to train the underlying models or contribute to the development of the tool itself. In other words, that data stays with you and within your organization. This allows us to confidently use Copilot with more sensitive data or topics and ultimately get more value and efficiency out of our day. Before we dive deeper, let's help you figure out which environment that you're likely in. If your organization is a commercial business, think retail, healthcare, finance, you're almost certainly in the enterprise or commercial cloud. For example, private sector, higher education, or most non-regulated organizations, this is almost certainly the cloud that you're in. For government agencies or contractors, there will be some differences in feature availability due to specific security requirements. Today we'll focus on the enterprise or commercial experience. Copilot in this environment sits inside your existing Microsoft 365 Trust boundary. That's the same boundary that already protects your files, emails, Teams chats, and SharePoint sites. So Copilot isn't a separate mystery system. It's layered on top of the security and compliance controls that your organization already has in place. In the commercial cloud, Microsoft operates secure data centers around the world. Your organization chooses where its tenant is hosted, for example, in North America, Europe, or another region. The key takeaway here is that Copilot honors the same data residency decisions that your tenant already follows. It doesn't suddenly move your content to some other random location. It stays within that Microsoft 365 environment your IT has already approved. Next, you'll notice the compliance alphabet soup here up on the side. That would be ISO 27001, SOC, GDPR, and these are widely recognized independent security and privacy standards. Microsoft 365, and therefore Copilot in the commercial cloud, is built to meet these requirements. That means things like strong information security management controls. That's ISO 27001. Independent audits through SOC reports, and alignment with GDPR for organizations that have to manage EU personal data. You don't have to remember each acronym. The important part is that Copilot is not operating off to the side. It inherits that same enterprise-grade compliance posture as the rest of Microsoft 365. The third point here is encryption in transit and at rest. Anytime Copilot is accessing your organization's content, whether that's a Word document, a Teams chat, or a SharePoint file, that data is encrypted while it's moving between services and while it's stored on disk. So your prompts, the context Copilot looks at, and the responses it generates are all being protected using the same encryption that already secures your email and files today. All right, so to sign in with your work account, you'll follow these steps. First, you'll navigate to m365.cloud.microsoft/chat, or your preferred way of getting to your Microsoft 365 homepage. You'll go there on your preferred browser on your device to get to Copilot Chat. You can also get here again from your M365 homepage and select that Chat tab that appears up in the top left corner. Next, you want to ensure that you're signed in with your work account. You can check this by looking for the green shield icon at the top of the page, like what you see here on the top right of the image. And again, if you are not signed in with your work account, enterprise data protection does not apply. So you want to just double check for these two things. All right, so Copilot Chat. Well, it introduces a very new and different type of workflow. Many of us may be used to the search engine experience where we try to take a really big, complicated thought and shrink it down into 4 or 5 keywords. That approach worked well for traditional search, where the goal was to match specific terms. With Copilot Chat, though, that mindset shifts. You can add more context and more detail to your conversation, and it actually works better when you do. This allows you to ask questions, make specific requests, and start creating content that's tailored to what you're actively working on. It also opens the door to deeper explanations and better insights. Maybe you're learning a new tool or trying to understand a new concept. All of that becomes much more accessible through this conversational style of engagement. As we mentioned, there are several iterations of AI technology available online, but among them, why should we use Copilot? First, we see that Copilot is pulling from some of the most powerful AI models available today and leveraging them within your secure environment. It's still using those highly trained and well-developed models, but integrating them directly into the tools and content that you're already working with. Next, Copilot not only provides responses, but it also cites its sources. This added transparency supplies us with additional insight and verifiable alternate resources. Every once in a while, if I don't see that come through automatically, it's very easy to prompt Copilot to provide these sources. Excuse me. There's also no knowledge cutoff when Copilot has access to search the web. I do want to call out that some organizations have disabled this feature. Oh, one moment. Excuse me. So some organizations have disabled this feature. So you may be working only with the foundational model, which is still very powerful and does get updated as well. However, if web access is enabled in your environment, Copilot isn't limited to the information it was originally developed with. It can perform real-time web searches and bring in more current, up-to-date information, which can be especially helpful when you're researching new topics or looking for the latest details. And lastly here, Copilot will not share or use your prompts or files to train AI models. All data remains private to your organization. Copilot chat history is stored securely in your Microsoft 365 account, where it's encrypted and access controlled. And it's fully under your organization's retention control, just like an email or a Teams chat. No one at Microsoft or OpenAI can see it, and it's not used to improve the AI. So enterprise data protection, or otherwise known as EDP, is indicated by that green shield icon in Copilot that we saw from the last slide up in the top right corner, or 2 slides ago. And that means that the system honors all your organization's privacy, security, and compliance policies like identity access, sensitivity labels, DLP, retention, etc. All right, so let's get to know Copilot Chat. How do we navigate it now that we know how to access it? Well, first up, we'll see the main chat window, and that's the primary workspace when you sign in, especially in the web experience. This is where you interact with Copilot and see responses. Next, you'll see the prompt text box in the center of the screen, and this is where you enter prompts, ask questions, and start conversations with Copilot. We then see the send prompt action, which looks like a arrow in a circle, and that's where you can submit your prompt and receive a response from Copilot to continue the conversation flow. We'll also see document and file attachments, which is where you can add documents to a chat. You can reference files from OneDrive or SharePoint Online by granting Copilot permission or upload files directly from your device. Next, you'll see the left-hand navigation menu, and that's where you can have access to different areas of Copilot. Now, this menu may be collapsed in some views and can be expanded using that navigation icon that appears in the top left corner. You'll see conversations or chats, and that will let you search and see previous conversations so that you can quickly return to ongoing or past work. You can go into the All Chats view to search all of your previous conversations or search within conversations. What you'll also see if we look in the bottom center here are suggested prompts. And those are the prompt ideas that are displayed beneath the main text areas to help you get started or explore new ways to use Copilot. We'll also find a prompt gallery, and that's where you can expand the view of suggested prompts, and that's going to help provide inspiration and examples of what Copilot can help you achieve. Excuse me. Whew. Then we have contextual conversation history. Ah, that sounds better. So Copilot retains context within a single chat, and that allows you to build on ideas without restating, all previous information. And then we have a new chat option that you'll find up in the top right corner with the little plus sign. That's where you can start a fresh conversation, and you'll use this when you're changing topics, and that can help prevent unrelated context from mixing. So to engage with Copilot Chat, there are 3 easy steps. First up, you'll type out your prompt, and then you will send that through. Next, you can check the sources. So again, Copilot Chat will be transparent about the sources it uses. Sometimes they will appear automatically. Other times you can just prompt with another iteration saying, show your work, or what are your sources for getting this information? And then you can continue the conversation too. And we'll take a look at this in our live demo coming up next. But real quick, I have an icebreaker for you folks. If you could wave a magic wand, what is one task that Copilot could help you with? And I'll include this in the chat as well. So I'll mention before I transitioned into tech, I worked as a high school English teacher. And oh gosh, what could help me would be ordering my lesson plans to fit into a calendar of sorts, especially when we had unexpected days off or assemblies. This would really help me just picture it in a big picture and also make adjustments where needed. So that's one task that I would want Copilot to help me with when I was still in the classroom. Now it's definitely email management for sure. But go ahead and now you can write into the chat. What's a task that Copilot could help you with if you had your magic wand? All right, let's see what we have. Responding to emails. Absolutely. My number one too. TOO. What else? Let's see. Moving current content into rebranded templates. Ooh, good point. Good idea there. Double check the accuracy of my allocation spreadsheet. Oh, yes, especially if you have a spreadsheet with multiple tabs or sheets within it. We have processing invoices. Oh, good one. Summarize all office communications. Oh, goodness. That reminds me of like a really long email chain. Creating PowerPoints. Okay. Reviewing multiple spreadsheets and combining data. Oh, right. Like if you are trying to pull in from multiple files. And then we have one more, providing auditing information of data shared into table sheets with rationale. Okay. Let's see another one, review procedures for conciseness and formatting. Excellent. Oh my goodness. So many great items that you've shared. I definitely love the idea of a magic wand. So now we'll take a look into our first demo of the day, where we will see, oh goodness, it always, there we go, back to where I need. Where we will see some of the capabilities of using Copilot Chat as a way of sort of kind of a magic wand to some capacity. All right, so with this, I'm going to switch my screen over to my live demo environment. A couple things to point out here. First up, in the URL on the top left, this is that URL that I followed, the m365.cloud.microsoft /chat, or I can get here from my Microsoft 365 homepage, and I will select new chat up in the top left corner. This is also where I am starting. Another note to point out is in the top right corner, I see that green shield, and that shows me that enterprise data protection applies to this chat. And I also have a hyperlink if I want to follow and read more about that. A bit more navigation in the center is where I can write in my prompt to Copilot. On the left, I'll see my chat, so that's where I can see the previous conversations that I have sent through. I'll also find this search bar for my chats, and that's where I can look for something in particular, like maybe something about an email, and I had a couple ones from last month it looks like. All right, back over into my new chat. So what I'm going to do is just start off, and this one is going to be helping me with brainstorming. So zoom in a little bit more here. All right. So typing in my prompt, I'm going to ask Copilot to help me brainstorm fun and professional mascot ideas for a district-wide health and wellness program. Okay, adding some more context here. I want Copilot to provide a table, right, so it's easy to read, and include a name and a one-line mission statement based on values or values of teamwork and emotional well-being. All right, good well-rounded prompt to start with. I'll go ahead and send this through with that blue arrow icon, and let's see what Copilot returns. All right, so immediately I'm looking for a table, I'm looking for the mascot ideas, and I'm looking for a mission statement based on values of teamwork and emotional well-being. Let's see what we have. Copilot says, here are some fun, professional, meaningful mascot ideas for a district-wide health and wellness program. Each concept emphasizes teamwork, emotional well-being, and school community values. Great. Let's see. All right, so my mascot ideas table. Let's see. We have the wise owl called Ollie the Optimist. We have description, and then a mission statement. And I'll see this with a few. We have a supportive dog, Buddy the balanced pup, a colorful chameleon, and we continue on with many more ideas. What I'll also see, oh, even more. I thought that was the bottom. Going to Smiling Sun and Puzzle Piece character, Pax the Puzzle Pal. All right, so then if I scroll a little bit more, I get some tips for what I could consider for choosing the best mascot, like getting student input, great idea, visual simplicity, versatility, and messaging as well, like aligning with my district's wellness pillars, right? Whatever those might be. And then what I'll see are follow-up prompt suggestions. So as I scroll down, we're going to see that Copilot is eager to help me out at much more, right? To fit whatever it is I'm looking for. So here I can get suggestions of like creating logo concepts, slogans, or a rollout plan for introducing the mascot. All right, so let's take a look. I'll go ahead and select design a rollout plan for the mascot, and I'll send this through. So maybe I'll get something like dates or length of time for things. Okay, here's a clear, actionable rollout plan to successfully launch your district-wide health and wellness mascot. For excitement, student ownership, and lasting impact. Oh, that would be great. Okay, so I have broken down into phases, it looks like. My first phase will be 4 to 6 weeks before for building awareness. Something big is coming to support your wellness. Our new friend loves teamwork. Right, we're getting some clues. Introducing the staff. Then our student engagement options. Then we go into phase 2, a big reveal event. Have an interactive introduction, like a short skit. Okay, sure, why not? An origin story, visual impact. So a lot of different items to add into that excitement and really get ready for people looking forward to using these, to using the wellness mascot and integration into school culture, which will be ongoing. We even have some simple, repeatable themes, Mindful Monday, Teamwork Tuesday. That's great. Some classwork connection ideas, student leadership. Oh, and we even have a phase 4. Let's look at that. So sometimes, and 5. So it keeps going. But what I can always do is get a follow-up prompt. So maybe shorten, right? Shorten the engagement or the rollout plan to 2 weeks. Let's say I don't have enough time. And that's also way too many steps. So I can condense it. And here we got some adjustments. Days 1 and 2. Okay, great. So we have broken down by day. And what I can even do with this is then just make those manual adjustments or integration, but this at least gives me a place to start. Right, and then a recommendation, a one-page flyer. So we can go on and on and on, even more with this until I have some foundation of what I'm looking for. All right, let's hop back over to our slides and get a better idea of putting together these prompts, right? What should we consider? So let's talk a little bit more about how to effectively engage with Copilot. Now you may hear the term context engineering, which is really just a fancy way of saying we should treat our AI tools like a new team member. And here's what I mean. When we approach AI as if it's a new employee or a new hire, it changes our expectations. We wouldn't assume that person already has historical context about our projects or an inherent understanding of our organizational processes or folder structures or even ways of working. When we keep that mindset in mind, It influences the type of information that we provide. We want to make sure that Copilot has everything it needs to do its job well. That means sharing relevant background about what we're trying to achieve, giving clear instructions, explaining the task, defining the expected output format, and setting any boundaries that it should stay within. All of that becomes the mindset we bring into our prompting experience. And it makes a noticeable difference in the quality of results that we get back. So, what specifically makes an effective prompt? Well, at a very simple level, it's something that's specific and detailed. I've found that using full sentences and an instructional format is especially helpful, along with notes about tone, purpose, and the preferred format that you're looking for. On the screen here, you'll see an example such as recap the findings of the article I've copied below and include the top three concerns. Provide the answer in 2 to 3 paragraphs and use a business tone. Now you can probably imagine how much more effective that prompt is compared to something like summarize this news article. The shorter prompt will still give you a response, but it won't be nearly as tailored to what you actually needed. When we're vague and only provide a few words without context, we are much less likely to get the best possible results. That said, there's no wrong way to start these conversations. The best way, though, is to simply jump in, practice, and use natural conversational language that feels comfortable to you. All right, how do we bring all of this together? Well, we can make requests, revisit, and readjust our prompts in a flowing conversation, as we observed earlier. We're also just trying to be effective and simply get things done. So, what does an effective prompt look like? What parts are present? And there are a few key things that I recommend. First up, we have persona, and that is giving your AI tool a persona to work from. Is it approaching the task as an expert scientist in a specific field? Or as a coach? Or even as a new hire who may not be familiar with all of your internal jargon? That choice alone can significantly change how the task is approached and the type of output you receive. The next element is the task itself. This is where you clearly state the expectation for the outcome. Are you asking for a summary? Are you looking for answers to specific questions? Are you trying to extract particular details? Being specific about what you want here makes a big difference. Then we have format, which is closely related to the task, but it's not always automatically understood, and it's often assumed. Because of that, I do recommend being very clear about the format you expect. Are you creating an email, a report, a bulleted list, or a table? Clearly defining the format helps ensure that the final result is something you can use right away instead of having to reply and reiterate that response. You know what you're getting right away. Another important consideration closely tied to persona is the audience. Sometimes the output is just for you, and that's perfectly fine. Other times, you might be creating something for leadership or for a highly technical audience. And different audiences require different language, levels of complexity, and even different lengths. And finally, don't forget about tone. While Copilot can suggest tone adjustments, many real-world scenarios require more nuanced combinations. You might need something that's professional and direct, but also empathetic or supportive. Being specific about tone helps ensure the message lands the way that you intend. When we bring all of these elements together, your prompt might look something like this. Think like a specific persona and complete a clearly defined task. Formatted the output as something like a PowerPoint presentation. Even then, you may still realize there's more information to share, and that's completely okay. this is just a starting point. So taking this approach allows you to experiment and iterate. We won't be able to cover every possible scenario today, but this gives us a strong foundation to build from. So let's take a look at an education example. Here we have as our prompt, as an educational technologist, design an interactive online tutorial that will be presented in a series of web modules for high school students learning algebra. The style should be engaging and easy to understand. So we'll take a look at this in our next demo. Before we get there though, I do want to share a quick note about some different ideas that you can use for inspiration. And you can always come back to this slide later on after this session and use it for reference, like using Copilot Chat to summarize policy documents or simplify complex language or even outline a workshop, right? Just some ideas. Okay, let's get into our next demo today. So switching back over to that M365 demo here, what I'm going to start off with is creating a new chat because we're changing topics. So to create a new chat, I'll go up to the top left corner and select New Chat. All right, so the first thing I'm going to use is that same example from the slides. And I'm just going to copy and paste that. So again, as an educational technologist, design an interactive online tutorial that will be presented in a series of web modules for high school students learning algebra. Sounds exciting. The style should be engaging and easy to understand. All right, so sending that through, we have all 5 elements. Let's see what Copilot provides. All right, so we have a complete design for an interactive web-based algebra tutorial series tailored for high school students. Wow, that would have been great for me to have experienced back in the day. But we see gamification, module learning, adaptive feedback, and more. All right, so this tutorial series, let's see, we have a engaging project title, Algebra Quest, Master the Unknown. An overview where we are going to look at short animated lessons, interactive problem solving. We'll have a gamified progression like points and badges and levels, right? Sounds exciting. When I think of high school algebra, I don't always think of excitement. I'm sorry to those of you who do. But let's see, we're getting a reframed here. We have a structure of the tutorial. So different modules, right? First one, foundations. We have some goals, interactive features, and then that gamification element. And I'd imagine that these different modules moving along are going to copy that same format, right? So almost aligned as like a starting place for lesson plans even, right? A mini game. So maybe we can get some formative or summative assessment ideas. Let's see, graphing and coordinates. This challenge is graph the mystery line using clues. All right, so we're seeing here that we have plenty. I'm just going to scroll down. Let's see, how many modules do we have? Oh, looks like 6, right? Reviewing an application too. And then again, we have those assessment ideas. Then some other items to consider like design and user experience. Scrolling down, engagement strategies, an assessment strategy, those different assessments. Ooh, even an analytics dashboard. That'd be great. Recommendations for tech, sample journey, bonus features, right? So again, we have a very long interactive plan here. And again, we have recommendations for continuing. All right, let's change topics. So another new chat on the left here. Let's go ahead and help. Let's go ahead and say that we want to get some help with Copilot in M365 EDU. So help me get started with. And as I'm typing again, we're going to see some recommendations, like Copilot trying to finish my request. none of those yet are the ones I'm looking for. So let's see. Help me get started with Copilot in M365 EDU. For each role, include one goal, one constraint, and one success metric. And I'll say use the following roles to write different responses. A district administrator, a classroom teacher, and an IT help desk technician. Nope, there we go. Did I spell that right? Technician. Yes. Okay. Send it through. So we have our audience, our intended audience. We actually have 3 different ones. And we're looking for one goal, one constraint, and one success metric for each of these roles. See how it's at. All right, district administrator. So focus, strategic adoption, and measurable impact, our goal. Implement Copilot across key departments to improve efficiency and decision making. A constraint for being on compliance with student data privacy regulations. And success, looking for a reduction in administrative task time by 30% within one semester, measured through surveys and workflow analysis. All right, what else do we have? Let's see, classroom teacher was our next one. Here, focus enhancing instruction and saving planning time. That'd be great. Who wouldn't want that? Goal, use Copilot to create differentiated lesson plans, formative assessments, and feedback for students. Constraint would be limited time to learn new tools and also ensure that this content aligns with standards. In success metric, 2 to 3 hours per week saved in lesson planning and grading, along with improved student engagement. Great. And then we have our last one, which was the IT help desk technician, where the focus is supporting the rollout and maintaining reliability. Goal would be to enable and support the Copilot deployment. Constraint would be working within existing infrastructure limits. And then a success metric, achieve a first response resolution rate of above 80% for Copilot related tickets and reduce repeat issues. All right, great. And again, we have those recommended follow-ups. All right, so let's take a look at one other scenario here, switching it up, where we're going to pull in some files to reference. So again, changing topics, new chat. And again, changing topics not only helps keep your ideas streamlined, but it also makes it easier to find them again if you're searching, right? We have them segmented by different topics as opposed to one flow of however many ideas we have that day. With these chats, we can also rename them. If you go into the ellipses, we can rename that chat just to make it easier to find in the future. Okay, so next scenario here, let's go ahead and say that we are an IT director preparing to implement a new student device use and safety policy for the district. And for this one, it's kind of long, so I'm going to copy and paste it from my other screen here, but I'll just kind of summarize what we have. So we're an IT director, right? We've identified the persona with expertise in cybersecurity. I want to look for a student device use and safety policy that's going to help for both school-owned and personal devices. I'm also looking for alignment with regulations and to include sections on device eligibility, security requirements, digital citizenship, and acceptable use. All right, let's send it through, see what we get. So again, this prompt includes the persona, clear context, that K through 12 environment, and then structured policy components. All right, so here we have that structured policy suitable for K through 12 environments, and then we also include the regulatory compliance. Let's see. All right, so we have purpose and scope, what type of devices, What's the eligibility for the school-owned devices and then the bring your own device, security requirements, acceptable use, right? What's accepted, what is permitted or prohibited, digital citizenship expected for responsible behavior, and even more. So I'm just going to scroll down what we are mentioning, all of those items along with some additional context for this file. Sorry, for this response. Now, what I want to do is attach a file to reference so we can get some added information on support limitations and responsibilities to the policy. So with that, I'm going to add in a file from my Microsoft 365 environment. It's saved to my OneDrive, and I can do that with this plus sign here to add a source. So I can attach a cloud file, but a quicker way to do so is if I just type in a backslash, and I'm going to search for the file. It is a digital citizenship guideline file. Here we are. So for some context, I'm just going to click on it to open it in a new tab to let you know what we're working with. And I want to make sure that the policy is going to reference this existing digital citizenship guidelines file. Talking about safe online behavior, respectful communication, responsible use. So this is a document we'll say that I'm already using within my district, something that's referenced a lot. So I want that new policy to reference it too. Here's what we will do. I'm going to go ahead and write at the beginning of this file. Rewrite the policy to reference digital citizenship guidelines. And then I want to add information on support limitations, parent, guardian, responsibilities, and student responsibilities to the policy. All right, send that through. So in this iteration, I am asking Copilot to do a few different things. I will recommend you want to kind of break those down instead of like having all of this information plus several other components. It can be a lot and it might just change the output, for example. So I just want to keep that in mind. All right, so it's revised. Now referencing the guidelines document. Let's see how it did. We have that purpose, which is the same. Devices, security requirements. And here we are. Okay, so because we are referencing a specific document, I'm seeing citations throughout. So here, the use strong passwords and never share them except with a trusted adult is coming directly from or referencing this digital citizenship guidelines. So here's going to be those citations that you might see as you are engaging with Copilot Chat, either from your own files or maybe other resources, just grander from the internet, depending on what it is that you are prompting. All right, so again, some citations and we're seeing. And that again might depend just on your environment and any policies that your admin have put in place. All right, so we have this ready to go. What I could do at the end, oh, very, very long. What I could do here is just copy this and put it into a new Word document. Have some other options to export it to Word as well. And again, your engagement is going to depend, like I said, on just organization structures and access and all those things. Okay. So now let's come back over to our slides as we get to wrapping up because we're almost at the end of our time today. And I do want to mention understanding AI's limitations. So first up, AI models can produce hallucinations, which I mentioned way at the beginning of our presentation today. And that is where they generate fabricated or incorrect information that's presented as facts. You'll also find that unlike search engines, AI language models do not retrieve verified data, but instead they use pattern matching to generate responses. And then it is important to critically evaluate AI outputs, as they may sound convincing, yet be inaccurate. I also want to wrap up with some prompting tips and tricks. Now, no matter how good we get at prompting or how much context we provide, there are still moments where certain details just simply don't occur to us in the moment. Over time, I have found a few techniques that consistently help improve the quality and relevance of Copilot's responses, both professionally and personally. So again, the slide is here for you to reference. Just in summary, we have ask me 5 questions that will improve your response. When I put this at the end of my prompt, I'm able to kind of structure the next iteration. Give me 2 options, right? Option A, option B to choose between. Maybe that is going to provide me with something I didn't consider. Show your work, which is like a way of getting those citations, or those large language models or LLMs explain how it was figured out. Create a frequently asked questions at the end of this document. Do that too. Some other prompting ideas. You can use meta prompting to improve how you ask, like create a prompt for an LLM. You can ask clarifying questions and then turn huge tasks into smaller tasks too. We'll also see that there are a variety of keys to AI success. So it's recommended to focus on growth and improvement, not perfection. So this tool of Copilot Chat will continue to evolve and change and get better. So be patient with yourself. I also want to make a note that as an organization, we have helped so many people launch Copilot with confidence. So if there is something that our team or planet can do to help you, please feel free to reach out to us, and we love to see what options are available. And I have some information for you here as well in the chat. Lastly, I do want to share one last poll with you folks to give us some feedback with how today went. So if you can take a moment to complete the poll at the end here, that would be great. All right, and then of course I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. Again, you can find that contact information in the chat as well. Are there any questions that have come through that I can help answer? All right, thank you folks so much. All right, I think Jason has gotten to all of the questions, which is fantastic. Thanks for being here today. Will we get a recording sent? Yes, the recording will be shared with you. And you can look out for that in the coming days. All right, not seeing any additional questions. So again, I just want to thank you all so much for joining. It's been a pleasure.